Hello, everybody. Welcome to Championship Bowling's All-Star Tournament from the beautiful University Lanes here in Toledo, Ohio. And this is Fred Wolf, where again we have two more of the world's outstanding bowlers in match game competition as we continue our schedule through the first round. 24 in the starting field, the 12 winners, of course, moving into the second round. And this week, we have a couple of boys that I'm sure you must be well acquainted with, two of the great stars in the game. We will have Joe Joseph, the All-American from Detroit, Harry Smith, the All-American from St. Louis. The winners so far, Steve Nagy, Eddie Marin, Ned Day, Joe Filio. This winner will come out into the second round and meet the winner of Dick Hoover and Joe Ostrowski, who will be with us, of course, next week. Now let's bring the boys out here, introducing first from Detroit, Joe Joseph. Joseph. I don't want anybody to think I'm stuttering, but what is your name, Joe? Your full name?
Well, it used to be Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
I had the middle name changed.
To Joseph?
It's,
to Joe?
I had it changed to George.
To George. All right, let's bring out Joseph's opponent from St. Louis, Harry Smith. Harry, come on out. Harry, I'll just call you Smitty, is that all right? I'll go over the rules briefly. $1,000 to the winner. Total pins will decide that winner for the 3 games. In addition to that, $50 for the first game, $75 and $100 for the 3 games. The loser will receive $300 plus a $400 consolation prize. Is that agreeable to both gentlemen?
Fine, Freddie.
In addition to that, $10,000 for a perfect score. You handle that, Harry?
You all right, Freddie?
I'm all right. Can you handle $10,000? Can you?
I sure can.
If both of you gentlemen roll a 300 score, I think we can dig up $20,000 for you. Now, there's been a toss of the coin, and who won that toss?
Harry.
Harry's winning already. Harry, what's your choice?
I'm going to start on the right-hand alley.
You will start on the right side, the right lane. That
Right
means
lane.
that you will start the match, Joe, in the first game. You will also start on the left side in the third game. Harry, you will be there in the second game. Are you both ready? You want to shake hands?
Fine.
No scratching,
Good luck,
please.
Harry.
Toledo, are you ready? Here we go. First game. Joe Joseph of Detroit. Ready, throws, looks like he's too high, on the nose, and he has something to think about. He has the 3, 6, 7, 10. Joe Joseph, one of the very graceful men in the business, will prove to you before we are through the third game here this week at the University Lanes in Toledo, Ohio, that bowling can be done and done very easily. This fella handles himself and that Brunswick bowling ball like it might weigh a pound or 2. A short approach. Watch him. This could be a great shot. Too much of the 3, 6, and Joseph is open in the first frame. The 3, 6, 7, 10, not as difficult as it might have looked to you. The idea would be naturally to cover the 3, 6, 10. Joe didn't do it. Here's his opponent. 150 pounds of dynamite. They call him the Tiger. A fella that can really tear them apart as he throws. Looks good. He's there. He does not carry the 9 pin. Almost the 4-9. Harry Tiger Smith, born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1930. Spent a couple of years in Detroit. Went to Detroit in 1955. Won the Michigan State match game title 2 years running, the first man to repeat. Then to St. Louis, where he became a member of the 1958 ABC team champions. He's got the 9 pin, converted the spare. Harry Smith, who's been bowling a good many years, 16 years actually. Harry started when he was only 14 years old. He toured the nation as a boy wonder, back with the veteran Eddie Kemp of Cleveland many years ago. And he's quite a billiard player. Shoots golf in the low 80s. He's an instructor. Went to school in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, just outside of Toledo. Got it. 10 pin coming this way. So the Tiger with a strike in the second frame, and Joe Joseph, 215 pounds, the pride of Lansing, Michigan. Joe is actually from Lansing. He was born in Clarksburg, West Virginia, but got to be quite a star in Lansing, and then, of course, came to Detroit in 1957. Too high, 4-7. Joe throws the three-finger, semi-fingertip variety of a ball, takes 4 steps. And this fellow was quite a boxer. He won the Indiana Golden Gloves title in 1938, went to the finals in Chicago. Member of the Brunswick staff. 4-7, converted. So Harry Smith has picked himself up a 12-pin advantage here at the end of the first frame, and he has a chance to make that 22. Harry on the strike, Joseph on the spare. You'll notice Joseph takes a very short approach, very short steps. Here he comes. And stall. So the television jitters have worn off here, and Joseph sets himself beautifully now with the strike in the third frame. He was high twice, which is a natural tendency to get off the ground. Harry has the strike now. Let's see what he can do with it. Here he comes. Ooh, look at that action. Harry Smith hopping over the ball rack, a very nimble young fella, and boy, he really blasted him. He has a lead now of 22 pins. We're only at the end of the third frame. Now both boys on strikes. We go from here. Harry moves to the left. Smith, the 1959 Max Kossoff's Endurance Classic champion. He averaged 220 for 40 games without stopping. Quite a contest. Hurry. He gets there, but the 5-pin remains, and it's a life for Joseph. We have two boys here who did some outstanding things in 1959. Both of them were finalists in the World's Invitational Tournament in Chicago. Both were finalists in the National Singles Championships in Buffalo, New York. 5-pin converted. So Joe Joseph now has got to make a move. Joe's been at this game for some 19 or 20 years. Very unusual thing. He averaged 191 his first year. The double? He's got it. So both boys didn't wait long. They made their first strike good. Smith getting one in the second, making it good in the third. Joseph getting his first in the third and coming right back with one in the fourth. He now trails by only 11 pins. Again, he is on the strike in the fourth. Smith on the spare. This strike by Joseph would put this match practically even. Little high, wide open, 4-7-10. As Joseph, if you were watching him, seemed to drift slightly to the right. He got outside on that one. He's been playing that alley rather deep. A very important thing is to get to that line in a straight line. If you're going to line yourself up to play an alley slightly inside, you've got to stay inside, and Joe seemed to drift a little. Watch the shot. Watch it. Great try. The 4-pin still there. And boy, you couldn't come any closer than that. A close miss, if you may call it as such. And you're not going to make it hitting the 4-pin too full, so he had to go the other way. Smith in the fifth. Ready. Throws. Good. And high. And Harry's wide open. So the boys are pressing a bit. Both respect each other's talents. The winner here, of course, moving into the second round to meet the winner of the Dick Hoover from Akron, Ohio, and Joe Ostrowski of Philadelphia match, which you will see next week on Championship Bowling from the University Lanes in Toledo, Ohio. Too much to the 6. Harry actually thought he might have a chance. Boy, he loves to hop over that ball rack, doesn't he? I hope we don't lose him if he happens to trip. At the end of 5, it's Joseph, 81, with his split. Smith, 95, with his split. Right there. Boy, Harry gave that one a little body English. He took that right hand and just practically pushed the ball into the 1-3 pocket. At least he thought he did. Smith leading by 14 pins. We're halfway in the first game as Joseph sets it out. He's high. He's high again. Nothing but the 4-pin. He got away with it. Joe Joseph of Detroit, a member of the 1959 American Bowling Congress team champions, a title they won in St. Louis and set an all-time ABC high, 32-43. Joseph contributed 657 of that. He had 1921 in the all events. 4-pin he has. Joseph moving to the left. Smith with the opportunity of extending his margin. He had 14 at the end of 5, and of course he sits on the strike. Joseph is on the spare. Now in 5 frames, Joseph has 2 strikes. The other 3 frames, he's been right through the middle. He broke up a split in the second frame, left the 4-7. He's had the 3-6-7-10, the 4-7-10, and this time he's out there. He sure takes it easy, doesn't he? For a big fella, Joe Joseph handles himself very nicely. Harry, more the jackrabbit variety, he likes to jump around, and he has that big hop at the end, which of course has nothing to do with the way he lets go of the ball. That happens after the ball is gone. Here it comes. There they go. There's the double. There's Harry Smith checking in here at 150 pounds against an opponent that weighs upwards of 215. Harry now has himself a 24-pin bulge at the end of 7. Right there, one more in that pocket solid, and the 10-pin is still up there. It's a life for Joseph. $1,000 to the winner. $300 plus a $400 consolation prize to the loser. The $50, $75, and $100 bonus money for each game. Some $60,000 in prizes throughout our 26-week schedule, with a winner picking up about $14,000. If he can get a 300 game along the line, it could be worth as much as $25,000. There's the conversion. At the end of 7, it's Harry Smith with 144 and a spare in the 8th. Joseph working on a strike. Too high, 6-pin. So Joseph misses the opportunity of getting the second double. He made good his first strike. Still crowding. It's either been strike or nose for Joseph. Up inside the 12-foot line. Joe takes a little shuffle up there, backs up, and then gets into 5 steps. Joe will tell you he takes 4 steps, but if you watch his footwork, he takes a couple of little fancy jig steps there before he gets away. At the end of 8, Joseph 121 spare, Smith 144 spare. Harry's out in front. He has 23 pins to nurse over a game and 2 frames. Too high. Wide open again, 4-7-10. Well, if you were with us last week when Andy Verapapa met the local boy, Joe Filio of Toledo, Andy bowled much the same, just not giving that ball enough room to work. Crowding the head pin. Let's see what Joe can do with this. Almost made it the last time. Too much of the 4-pin this trip. He's open again. As the Tiger from St. Louis now can extend his margin. Harry has 2 doubles with 1 open. Left a 10-pin on a double. Could very well be on a long string here. He's in again. This fellow's going to be hard to handle. Harry Smith. Harry throws what he calls a semi-fingertip. It is closer to a fingertip than a semi, and he has the very unusual distinction of folding his little finger, his pinky, in under his palm, and that sets on top of the ball. One more. There it is. Well, Harry could very well have had 4 of them, and he left that 10-pin solid in the 8th. On a double, he follows it with 2. We're in the 10th. That's his first one. He has a chance for 224. Harry Smith. Harry has a brother, Keith, back in Cleveland that averages around the 200 mark. Once more. Look at those. Chance for this fella. They were fighting to get down. Harry Smith, who just tears the labels off them, as they say. 224, and Harry's got himself 2 doubles and what could very well be a 4-bagger. Of course, when you get 3 of them in the 10th, it doesn't count as much as getting 3 in the middle of a game. But he's going to get him. He's got him. Boy, since the 6, 7, 10 in the 5th frame, when he was right on the nose, Harry Smith put the next 6 in a row right in the pocket solid. Actually, the 7 in a row. He lost the 10-pin. He had 2, lost the 10, followed with 4. And Joe Joseph is high again. Almost the 4, 7, 10 again. Joe didn't get that one out. He hit the foul line. And Mr. Joseph is going to have to settle for 167. Joe won the 1959 Jerry Peck Classic in Chicago for a nice first prize. He had 916 for 4 games. He's got the spare. Haven't had a miss, actually, but we've certainly had some wide open leaves. We've had the 4, 7, 10 twice. Joseph left it twice. Smith left the 6, 7, 10, the opposite to that on the other side, and Joseph started with a 3, 6, 7, 10. In the 10th for the count. Joseph sets it nice. Doesn't get there. Not enough ball. He has the 2, 5 and settles for 1, 6, 5. Harry Smith, 224. We'll be right back for more action here on Championship Bowling All-Star Tournament from the University Lanes in Toledo. This is Fred Wolf asking you to stand by and give this message your strict attention. The scores for the first game: Joseph 165, Harry Smith the winner with 224. Harry, let's give him a hand. $50 for winning the first game, Tiger. You going to go from here?
I'm going to keep trying. I got a tough man there.
You got a pretty good lead here. You ought to be able to waltz home.
No, I never waltz.
You never waltz?
No.
You've been jumping over this rack like you're doing, little waltz, and don't fall down. We need
No.
you. We're ready for game number 2. How
Thank
about
you.
Toledo? You ready? It'll be the Tiger from St. Louis, Harry Smith. He has a lead of 35 and 24. 59 pins at the end of the first game, and he's there, and look at that action. Well, Mr. Joseph has got a tiger by the tail, I'll tell you that. With a 165 game, Joe has quite a job for himself as he steps inside the 12-foot line, drops the right heel back, takes his 4 short steps, and throws the ball in the pocket for a strike. Joe moving to the left. All games start from the left side. Smith, of course, starting the second game. Joseph started the first. Now Joseph, of course, will bowl his 2 frames, moving from right to left, and Smith will follow him, and that's the way the boys will go through this game. ABC sanctioned competition. Once more. He's got it. So Joe Joseph is going to give it a try, but Harry Smith in his practice sessions here for the past 2 days at the beautiful University Lanes in Toledo, Ohio, has been just short of sensational. He's had strings of strikes that have gone as high as 18. He just loves the conditions, and he may be tough to handle. Oh, he threw that one out in the Maumee River. So Mr. Joseph begins to hack away. He's got 59 pins to get. And a big game, of course, would make a big difference. Joe has got to go big. If Smith can be around the 400 mark over the next 2 games, Joseph will need about 460. It's simple arithmetic. The 1, the 2, the 4, and the 8, and he's there. Nice shot. A nice cover, and Harry will tell you that the 1, 2, 4 is his biggest troublemaker. And with that type of ball, you can understand why. Harry has rolled 29 perfect scores. He rolled his first 300 score when he was only 16 years old in Willoughby, Ohio. So actually, this is old home week for Harry, being a Cleveland boy and having spent a lot of time around these parts. But he's now out of St. Louis. Oh, great train. Joseph now moving in the 3rd and certainly cannot stop to spare. He who strike have no time to spare. One more. He dropped it. He may be all right. He's in. He's got 3. So Joseph's going to give it all he's got. He starts with 3. He's picked up 20 pins already. Harry with 2 strikes and Joseph with 3. But Harry, of course, getting the spare between 2 strikes, finds his opponent now chopping away. 20 pins gone. We're in the 4th. Joe Joseph. An All-American from Detroit. Throws. He's there. He's there. Number 4. Beautiful delivery. And certainly getting the ball out over the line. Joseph had a lot of trouble the first game, dropping the ball. Couldn't get on. He was on the nose most of the time. Just buried 4. Oh, and they were all in there. Smith now knows he's got to go, as he mentioned before this game started. He's on the strike. He needs this one. He's got it. Oh, he's got it. No doubt about it, as he does a dipsy-doodle out there on the way back from the foul line. This fella is just short of a contortionist. He's liable to go anywhere. He looks real sharp. You notice he keeps flexing that right arm. He wants to keep that pendulum swing, as Joe Willman has told you in some of our bowling tips that he passes along each week here on Championship Bowling. From Toledo, Ohio at the University Lanes, you're seeing Harry Smith throw that ball up, in, carry. Well, I told you Harry might jump right out of the place. He almost did on that one, and boy, he needed it, as Joseph now can still keep his 20-pin advantage in game number 2 if he can get another strike. He's too high, crowding a bit the 4-7. Joe dropped that one again. Not getting the ball quite over the foul line. So Joe Joseph lost 12 pins of his advantage right there with that one, because Smith has his strike in the 5th, which gave him a triple. Joseph unable to match it. The 4 and the 7 converted. That gives Joseph a slight lead here, halfway in game number 2. 107 and a spare. Smith is 40 in the 2nd. He works on 3. Beautiful action. Joseph with another one to start the 2nd half. Joseph throwing practically a fingertipper. Smith is sort of in between a semi and a fingertip, with his pinky pulled in under the palm of his hand, resting heavily on top of the ball. And he has a big ring on that finger to boot. Now, how does he do it? Look here. Oh, he's got it. Stay with us, Harry. Oh, this fella's got some tremendous footwork. He might make a good match for Joe Ostrowski of Philadelphia, a former boxer. Although Joe is the heavyweight, I don't think he'd be able to find Harry. So we go into the 7th frame for Harry Smith. He started with a strike, missed the head pin, converted. He works on 4. He has a lead of some 59 pins. Here he comes. Look at that action, and Harry down on his knees and gives Joe Joseph a big smile. So he now has 5 as Joseph steps up working on his strike in the 7th. Too high, he's on the nose, the 10 pin. Joseph unable to hold that line, the ball getting a little high on him. He needed that strike to stay within 2 points of Smith, who now has put 5 of them together. Joseph got an early lead. He had a lead of 20 pins at the end of the 2nd frame. On 4, he went too high. On this very same lane, was working on the strike, had the 4-7. He's got the 10 pin, and he converts that one. So it's a good one going. A couple of great competitors, a couple of All-Americans, as we reach the 8th frame here at the University Lanes, home of the University Lanes singles tournament in Toledo, Ohio. Fred Wolf, along with our statistician, Joe Norris, as Joseph moves in the 8th. Trailing by some 60 pins. Too high, but he kicked the 4. Nice score by Joe Joseph. Joseph's now with the strike. Let's see what he can do when he moves back here on the right side in the 9th. He's going to watch Smith, who sits on 5. Joseph still potential 258. Smith potential 280. He missed the head pin in the 2nd frame on this alley. He doesn't get there. He had the bucket, a pin coming off the kickback, and he ends up with a 4-5 split. There's a bad break, and it's a break for Joseph. Joe Joseph, who lost the first game by 59 pins. He got 20 of them back as early as the 2nd frame of this game. Now he has a chance to get a few of them back if Harry does not put that ball between the 4 and 5. Let's watch. It just went past the 5 pin. Smith is open. A great try by the Jackrabbit from St. Louis, the Tiger. 186 now in the 8th. The best Smith can get here is 246. Joseph can go all the way for 258. These boys are great rivals with their respective teams, shooting for the most coveted titles in the 10-pin sport year in and year out. As Smith throws too high, almost wide open, the 6-10. So from a bad break to a good break, as Smith now begins to fish for that line. He was short of the pocket, just got a piece of it, this time on the nose. And Joe Joseph, one thing on his mind, and he moves in on the right side on his strike. He's been high twice on strikes this game. On lane 4. 6-10, Smith, look out, he's got it. So we find Joseph, the pride of Lansing, Michigan, out of Detroit, an All-American, with a very important frame right here. This strike would give him a great chance, and he sets it in, and he carries. So the gap of some 59 pins now begins to close up. Joseph getting closer. $75 going here in this game, and Joseph just about wrapped it up. All he'll need is a mark in the 10th frame to win the second game, but he's got to think more of the 59. If he can cut it down to about 20 pins, he certainly will have to be considered as a winner. Here he comes. He's there, 10 pin. Too bad. Joseph bringing that one back. His teammate and doubles partner, Billy Golombiewski of Detroit, in the audience this week, pulling naturally for his doubles partner, both members of the ABC champions in 1959. A great doubles combination. A conversion here by Joseph will give him the second game. And and he threw it away in the channel, and Mr. Smith now is on easy street. A very costly situation. When you take your pencil and try to realize that had Joseph carried the strike and not had to shoot at it, what a difference it would have made. He missed it with 225. Smith needs a strike and a spare to win. There's the strike. Look at that 7 pin. It got wrapped about 4 times. 1 pin got it in midair. So Harry Smith now can make it 2 straight. He needs a spare. All 10 pins in 2 balls. If he gets the first one, he'll have a 230 game. He'll have almost 70 pins on his opponent, and that should be enough. The man that can spot Harry Smith 70 pins in 1 game has got to shoot about 400. Here he comes. Doesn't get it. So we could possibly have a tie here. If Harry picks this one, we could have another dead heat. Ned Day and Thurman Gibson in their second game a couple of weeks ago had a pair of 246s. Smith needs all 4 of these to win by 1 pin and win $75. Will he get it? Look out! He did not pick it. He just got the 5 pin out of there. That shot worth $75. So in the second game, Joe Joseph, 225 with a big miss in the 10th. Harry Smith, 226. The big game follows, the $1,000, and of course, the winner moving into round number 2 on Championship Bowling's All-Star Tournament from Toledo, Ohio at the University Lanes. Fred Wolf now inviting you to stand by after this interesting word from our hosts. The scores for the second game, Joe Joseph, 225, Harry Smith, 226. Harry? Another $75, but
Got a break there.
only a pin. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Think you got enough, Harry? You got a
Another
pretty good
game.
lead,
Well,
I
last
think?
year I was 60 up and I lost. So.
You did. You're not taking any chances this year.
I'm going to keep it plugging.
Good for you. How about a 300 game? We could use that.
We're going to try. We're always trying for
If
that
you don't-
10,000.
If you don't get one, I think Mr. Joseph will, so pay attention.
I
Here
hope
we
he
go.
does.
Game number 3. Good luck to both of you. Too high. Joseph starting off the third game. Joseph with a total of 390. Smith with 450. The margin 60 pins. 60 pins. It seems just like, well, that it might be too many. Smith is hot as a firecracker. If he can get out of this with a 200 game, it would mean that Joseph would need, of course, at least a 260 game. And you don't pick those out of the bushes. The spare in the first frame is Harry Smith, the Tiger from St. Louis, steps in on the right side. A fellow who probably should be nicknamed Jumping Jack or something, or the Rabbit. First frame, third game. Yeah, he's there. 4 pin, a nice solid hit. Harry Smith, a finalist in the World's Invitational in Chicago. He finished 8th. He averaged 205 for 100 games. In the National All-Star Singles in Buffalo in 1959, a finalist, he finished 6th, averaged 207 for 100 games. A great performer since 1957 has got to be recognized as one of our great stars. The conversion, we have 9 frames to go. Joseph still trailing by 60 pins. Harry's a real workhorse. He'll work out 10, 15, 20 games at a crack without worrying about sore fingers or aching muscles. He only weighs 150 pounds. Here he comes. 7 pin. Did you see that pin go right around it? Looked like possibly the 4 or the head pin. Head pin hitting the kickback and falling to the left side of the 7 pin. So as long as Smith does not strike, there is still a possibility for Joseph to do what would seem to be the almost impossible thing, throw about 9 in a row in here and make this thing close. He can do it. He's got spare. So Joe Joseph, the pride and joy of Lansing, Michigan, bowling out of Detroit. Remember the 1959 Detroit All-City team, the American Bowling Congress team champions. High again, 6-pin. Joe is the envy of most of the all-star bowlers. Joe is a former golf champion, a Lansing amateur golf champion. He won that title in 1954. He's a scratch player. Shoots in the low 70s constantly, the little time that he does have with the Brunswick organization, keeping him quite busy as a member of their staff. The conversion. In the old days, a bowler had a lot of time to himself during the spring and summer, but bowling as it is known today, with all of its air conditioning, modern Brunswick automatic pin setters, it's a year-round sport. There's no doubt about it. And if you put your bowling ball in the closet during the summer months, you're missing a lot of fun. Once more, there. He carried. In the third, the first strike of game number 3. So Joe Joseph, as we get out the pencil, we take a look and we find that Joseph can still shoot 279. Smith has a lead of 60 pins, so he's got to have a good 200 game to hold it. And he decides possibly he better do that. Oh, this fella can throw more speed. It's amazing. With 150 pounds and with that fingertip, plus the fact that he has his pinky folded in under the palm of his hand, the hop on the end of his approach, it's just amazing where the speed comes from. He doesn't have a high backswing at all. Look at this. Great train. He really put those two in there. So Mr. Joseph has got to match it to stay with him, with the $100 hanging in the balance here for game number 3. They're both potential 279. Hey, nice action. Joseph keeping him high. Both boys now on a double as we reach the end of the 4th. 39-2 for both men. And Joseph has got to go all the way. That's about the answer. Once more, 10 pins solid. And that just about puts Joseph out of business. Had he been able to go all the way, Smith would have needed 220 to win. The tap right on top of a double, of course, means that Smith will not even need 200 now, because the 10-pin tap will cost Joseph at least 21 pins. This time he converts it. He missed it in the 10th frame of the second game. And he was on a double going into the 10th. He left the 10 and missed it. That, of course, is the big difference. Joseph could have actually given us a 257 game. He might have picked up 30 pins on his opponent, which would have made this match just 30 pins out of the reach of Joseph. But now, with 60 out, a little difficult. The 7-pin standing. Harry not pulling away, and we have a dead heat going. Conversion here will set the boys exactly the same. 19, 39, 68, 88, and the spare. Halfway, game number 3. Smith looking at the 7-pin. He'll work just as hard on this one as he does on his first ball. You can bet he's got it. So at the end of 5, here are two boys doing identically the same thing. They both have 88 in the and a spare in the 5th. Up, 4-pin. Harry's developed a little habit of When he knows he gives the ball a good lift, he feels it's going to get there, he sort of takes his right hand and takes a punch at the ball as it gets near the pocket. Little body English, little arm English to help the ball get up and get a bigger piece of the pocket. He's got the 4-pin in the 6th, and he converts that. So Harry Smith, with a total of 450, needs himself practically a 234 game to top Ned Day's total of 683, which he turned in against Thurman Gibson 2 weeks ago. Joseph throws high, nose, 3-6, 10, the 10-pin off the spot. But the Brunswick automatic pin setter will, of course, pick it up. The deadwood cleared, that pin, the 10-pin, put back off the spot. One of the amazing mechanical wonders of the world. The automatic pin setter by Brunswick at the 3-6-10. Joseph to the left side. He's got it. So we've broken this dead heat. The boys were going ball for ball and pin for pin. At the end of 6, we have Joseph with 105. The result of that 7-pin count, Smith is 107, both on spares. Joe has rolled 15 perfect scores. He's had as many as 33 strikes in a row in match play competition, just like that. Joseph actually started bowling back in 1940. He's quite a softball player. He used to be a pitcher. So here is Harry the Tiger Smith, the jumping jack from St. Louis. Ready, throws, there, Harry. A beautiful angle. Smith plays the right side, lane 4 here at the University Lanes in Toledo, very deep. As a matter of fact, he plays both alleys deep. He lines himself up almost left of center most of the time. A tremendous amount of speed, and he has that snap just at the instant of the release. He's a little to the right of center now. There, oh, he runs, he drifts to the left. Look at that. Look at that action. Quite a picture, isn't it? When a ball comes in from the outside like that and they just tickle that 7-pin, Harry turned to Joseph and he said, "Is everything all right, baby?" This seems to be a little line that Joe Joseph is making so famous here in Toledo. Here he comes. 1 double. Joe Joseph, a quiet boy from Detroit. Joe's father was a barber many years ago. He's now retired. A Golden Glove champion of Indiana in 1938. Once more? Yes, sir. Well, Joseph's going to make a run of it here in game number 3. The boys are lining them up, but Smith seems to have a comfortable margin and should come home free. Going into the 9th frame with that triple up there, Harry's got to get this one to keep his margin at 2 pins in the 3rd game. Of course, the 60-pin lead he still has, unless, of course, he does not get this strike. Now, if he opens this frame, there could be a possibility. He's got the 310 with a 10-pin off spot again. Now, let's do a little exploring. Joseph is potential 245. He has a lead of 60 pins. That would mean Smith would need 186 to win the match. Now, if he misses this, he will have 183 in the 9th. He will need exactly 3 pins in the 10th. He converted it, and that is the end of Joe Joseph. Harry Smith putting that ball between the 310, no doubt about it. Harry, a member of the Brunswick advisory staff, as is his opponent, closing the door in Joe Joseph's face. Joe has, of course, a chance to win the 3rd game. He lost the 2nd game by 1 pin. But I'm sure that Harry doesn't mind that, because that means he moves into the 2nd round. Down on his knees. There, carried. And he could still make it difficult. He could force Joseph to get his first strike in the 10th. Harry, potential 225. Certainly a consistent young man here this week on championship bowling. 224, 225, and 226 if he goes all the way. That would have to add up to 675. One under 225 and one over 225. One more. There. Got it. Harry Smith. No open frames here. He converted the 310, did a nice job with it, had a double in the third and fourth, another double in the seventh and eighth. Here's another double in the 10th. The count will give him 225. Harry had 15 strikes over the first 2 games, and he possibly can get 7 strikes in this game, a total of 22 strikes, and that's the story. For 225. Now, Joseph needs a strike to win the 3rd game. If he gets 9 in the count, he will lose this game by 1 pin also. 225 to 224. Joseph needs the strike. He'll never get it. He's on the nose, the 7-10. So it's Smith all the way. Well, the story is simply that Joseph could not keep that ball off the nose, coming high most of the time. That's where he had all of his trouble. Smith, with his tremendous speed, playing much more inside than Joseph, holding a tremendous line in that pocket with enough force to carry, turning in a 675 total. The last game was Smith 225, Joe Joseph 211. We'll check these scores, have the official results in just a moment, and have a word or two with these two great champions. But right now we have some more interesting words, and this is Fred Wolf inviting you to give them your attention, and we'll be back with you in just a minute. Let our hosts in. Now, before the final results, we're happy to have with us again this week the world's greatest bowling professor, Joe Willman himself, with Championship Bowling's Tip of the Week. Joe, welcome. How are you?
Fine, Freddie.
And a pretty good match here. You ought to maybe learn something.
I always learn something when I watch 'em bowl, Freddie. Have you ever thought of how you finish at the foul line? Believe me, sometimes it's very funny. Actually, I'm going to show you today the proper finishing position and explain at the same time how you should finish at the foul line. First of all, your foot should finish from 2 to 6 inches back of that foul line and be pointing directly toward your target. Second, and this is very important, your hips and your shoulders should be squared right away to your target. Your left knee should be bent, and then your body bent forward from the waist. That's going to bring that bowling ball right down practically to the alley bed. Your right leg should be in back of you, and your right arm extend out in front of you, reaching for the target. In other words, when you finish at the foul line, your entire body is an arrow pointing directly where you want that ball to go. I'll be back next week with another bowling tip, and let's go back to Freddie Wolf.
Thank you very much, Joe. And now the final results. It's Joe Joseph with 165, 225, and 211. The total 601. For Harry the Tiger Smith, 224, 226, 225, a clean sweep. The total 675. The winner, Smith over Joseph. Let's have the runner-up come out. First, Joe Joseph. Joseph.
Good, Freddie. How are you?
You run into a little rainstorm there, didn't you?
Yeah, boy's rough. He's rough anytime,
He's
Fred.
rough. He throws a lot of bowling balls. Joe, as the runner-up or the loser, I may put it that way, $300. There's $400 as a consolation prize. I want to wish you a lot of luck. Say hello to everybody back in Detroit for me, will you?
I sure will, Freddie.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot.
much. Joe Joseph, ladies and gentlemen. Now the winner, Harry Smith. We're going to see a lot of this boy. All right, Freddie. Well, there's another $100. That makes it all the way. Another close one. A cool $1,000. You want to tuck that away. That means, of course, you're going to be back as a winner as you now move into your second round. Harry, I have a little question to ask. A lot of people probably say, well, that hop he has on the end, it must bother him. Does that actually bother you?
Not when I strike.
Not when you strike. It only bothers you when you don't
When
strike.
I
That's
throw
like
that
my
ball
sore back. Well, Harry, I know a few years ago I used to throw a ball a little bit, and I used to do something like that. And my theory was, and I'm sure you agree, that happens after you throw the ball, doesn't it?
That's right. I'm squared away just before I let the ball go, and I got that when I was little. I weighed about 60 pounds, and I tried to throw in these 16-pound balls, and the ball threw me, and it's still throwing me.
Still throwing you. I think you're doing pretty well with it. By the way, you have that. You put that pinky on top of the ball. I'd like to see that. Maybe the folks could take a look. In other words, do you think this is important to have that finger on top of the ball with a ring on it yet?
Very, Freddie.
What does that
I
do?
got that from Thurman Gibson in Detroit. I bow with Gibby, and one night I was really struggling. I couldn't even buy a strike, and Gibby says, "Why don't you tuck that finger under?" So I've been tucking that little finger in there ever since.
You get a callus there?
I get a little callus on the first joint. It makes this finger lock in the ball. I don't have to squeeze with this finger, and it locks my wrist too.
Thank you. That's something for you folks to try. Possibly we'll get with. Check that out with Joe Willman. Speaking of calluses, as I look at your hand, I don't see. Here's one on the end of your finger.
That's
Is
from
that
the
a-
sharp edges, Freddie. I have no bevel on the ball whatsoever. I like to get a good feel with the fingers.
Now you actually go into these two holes just to the first knuckle. Is that right?
That's right.
Hmm?
That's right.
All right. Thank you. Very fine. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Harry Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Next week, of course, we'll have the match between Dick Hoover and Joe Ostrowski of Philadelphia. Smith will move out into the winner's bracket. Dick Hoover from Akron, Ohio. Joe Ostrowski from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Until next week, Fred Wolf just wishing good bowling to all of you and trying to be with us. Bye.